I think that itself is a really crazy thing to say and admit as a scientist, as a quantum physicist. You have to admit that observing something changes its state from wave to particle. It changes fundamentally what it is just by observing it. Yeah, it's wild. And then to assume it's coming from elsewhere is another thing. The way that I see it is that what are the odds that these races are also bipedal, have, 4 or 5 fingers, have front-facing eyes? The odds of that, I don't think are that great if you look at the vastness of the different types of planets and solar systems. So there has to be some type of link to us. And so I would assume way before, because if we're here and, I get people's argument well, you're traveling all these light years to just come here, you know what I mean? And that kind of seems insane. And I would agree with that. First of all, if you're traveling in a straight line with regular propulsion, yes, it's insane. But secondly, to me, it makes way more sense that we were sort of genetically modified again, and that they're probably, I don't know, but there seems to be some type of ultraterrestrial presence here.
Ultraterrestrial.
Yeah, being there's like some breakaway civilization, or there's something, whether it's deep in the mountains, behind the moon, the bottom of the ocean. There seems to be some type of monitoring system that has been here for a very long time. And, we see this show up in lots of, if you read all the old, Passport to Magonia, or all these incredible books by Jacques Vallée, where he looks at past cases, in the 1500s, 1600s, even further back than that, thousands of years ago in Japan, where they said the stars were dancing, and then was asked, how come that is? And he said, the wind was really strong. And that was the answer they gave. And they're like, all right. And they kind of just moved on, right? That makes sense.
Sounds good.
Checks out. So, you have all these tales of things have been going on for a very long time. It doesn't seem like this is an outside thing. But then again, maybe it's both. Why would it just be us and them?
That's what I'm talking about. Why can't you combine it?
Well, if for me, it's insane to think it's just us in the universe. Obviously, it's not just us in the universe. But if it's just us and then just them, I think that's more insane. I think it's either just us or everything, right? If it's just two. Just two of us in the whole universe? Yes. That to me sounds more insane than just being alone in the universe.
One of the Hollywood scenes that sticks in my head more than any other that was
hold on. Men in Black.
Which one?
At the end shot with the pool with the marble or whatever. Yeah.
When every time I think about that, just the ball and then the other ball and then the big ball and then the big balls and then fucking they're playing with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would that not make sense? Have you ever looked at the cells in our body?
As above, so below, man.
Holy shit. It's Joe, can you actually pull this up? This is a good parallel. It's in some ways like a non sequitur, but it'll make sense, I think, to you. Can you pull up
that scene?
Map of Rome, of the Roman Empire veins, like the word veins coursing through you? I don't know if it'll be on Google. It was on Twitter. I wish I'd saved this. Yeah, first one. Yep, that's it.
Wow.
Look at the pattern of how Rome built.
Yeah.
Now think of, neither of us are doctors, but think about the human body that we know, that we've seen a picture of. Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
And why would that not be the same thing with some sort of pattern at the cellular level that then also explains the universe the same way that every fucking thing in the world down to Picasso's art is technically math. It's numbers.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree with that. I think, to a certain level, I think, I don't think we have reality figured out at all. I tend to think that consciousness isn't a byproduct of our brain. I do think it's fundamental.
Can you explain that?
The idea that consciousness, if you look at, regular physics and regular science, tells us that our brain creates reality. So it's because of our brain that we are conscious. It's because of our brain that things exist, that we see them, right? Because of our brain, we perceive it. But, the sort of fringe parapsychological route, or the sort of fringe science, is that, and I think will be accepted as main science one day, is that consciousness is fundamental. So consciousness exists, and it's because consciousness exists that this is here. So if you take like the double slit experiment, for instance, I know it's a terrible thing to quote if you're not a physicist like myself, but it shows us that observation changes something. Mm-hmm. I think that itself is a really crazy thing to say and admit as a scientist. As a quantum physicist, you have to admit that observing something changes its state from wave to particle. It changes fundamentally what it is just by observing it.
Yeah.
Now, if I get that wrong, maybe, roast me in the comments, but I think that's like the gist of it, right? And that's all you need to really understand that, okay, what I'm observing isn't what reality is. It's different if I observe it or if I don't observe it. So I think, you can go down crazy rabbit holes with this stuff, but
I mean, you could go to the multiverse rabbit hole with that one.
You could, but all that might all just be sort of in the desktop, might not be outside the computer at all, right? I do think that if you look at quantum mechanics, it's kind of removed from space and time, right? That's kind of how it functions. Weirdly enough, like even Einstein called it spooky, this idea of quantum entanglement, that two photons, separated by an infinite distance, will instantly switched if one is charged positive, I think, and then the other one goes negative, like instantly from like a crazy, from a crazy distance. So just that alone, you're not beholden to space. Therefore, time is also. So does that mean you can also change that photon in time? Because time and space are linked. So, does that mean that everything is just happening all at once and that the only reason we perceive it otherwise is the brain?
We've also only accepted time as we know it, which is constant and moving forward, right?
That's right.
We're born and at some point we die, which means time moved from A to B, and a lot of shit maybe happens in between. But when you start to think about even the small, and I think that's all it is the small scientific understandings we even have of time now, including like time dilation. What was the name of that experiment again? Do you remember that? Where they put the watch up into space and went around the Earth, and it came back at a different
that was
time.
to prove Einstein's theory of relativity.
Yeah, I forget what that one was. I talked about it with Lawrence Krauss back in episode 180. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it's real.
Yeah.
And then like the extrapolated kind of Hollywood example that injects there it is. The Hefele-Keating experiment. I just want to read this for people to have the understanding. The Hefele-Keating experiment was a test of the theory of relativity in 1971. Joseph Hefele, it might be Hafele, a physicist, and Richard E. Keating, an astronomer, took 4 cesium beam atomic clocks aboard commercial airliners. They flew twice around the world, first eastward, then westward, and compared the clocks in motion to stationary clocks at the United States Naval Observatory. When reunited, the 3 sets of clocks were found to disagree with one another, and the differences were consistent with the predictions of special and general relativity. Meaning, it's exactly what it sounds like, people.
Which happened after Einstein died, right?
Yes.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that's a while after he died too, I think, right?
Yeah. Like his general and special relativity wasn't accepted while he was alive. I think that's an insane thing.
Like a tragedy?
Yeah, for him.
What I mean? I mean, obviously, like we have his legacy now, but it's like imagine like
people forget how fringe quantum physics was.
Yeah.
Prior to World War II, it was when Niels Bohr and all these guys were and Oppenheimer were playing around with this idea. They were outcast. They were literally like, you're crazy, you're insane. The same way we're treating a lot of people looking into parapsychology. And I think there's something to be said there.
Can you explain parapsychology to people?
Yeah, just the studying psychic ability. There's places like the Rhine Institute, places like Stanford Research Institute, the parapsychological labs at Princeton. All these places are researching the mind's or the consciousness's effect on the physical world and how we can interact with that. They're doing random number generator tests, which are really interesting, which is like these ones and zeros. It's basically
how does this work?
It's like a server that just goes from ones, that produces a bunch of ones and zeros. And if you play it long enough, it'll just be like 50-50.
Okay.
And they're having people essentially focus on either the ones or the zeros, and they're able to skew to a higher point than standard deviation, the ones onto one side or the zeros onto another side, right? So you're affecting on a very small scale physical reality through conscious interaction.
You anchor them in a way.
Yeah, you're changing it a little bit. And so they have these machines run. There's these servers. I think you can even sign up your own computer for one of these services to be a part of these servers. But essentially, the biggest spike they've ever had was at 9/11. That was the biggest spike they've ever had, they've ever recorded, was at 9/11. They had a huge spike.
How do they explain that? Yeah. How do they explain that?
So they just know that like somehow that effect, whatever happened there, I mean, you have to assume that it's probably tied to, obviously human consciousness, global consciousness, perhaps. There's this crazy study that they did too, where they had 5,000 people meditate, and the crime rate lowered significantly during those 3 weeks. If you can look that up, 5,000 people meditated for 3 weeks, and they did this twice. They did a follow up with 3,000 people in the Washington area, and crime rate dropped by like 15%, and hospitalizations dropped. Like a lot of these, they meditated on world peace.
Now they did this once.
They did it once with 5,000 and another time with 3,000.
Okay, so
because people thought it was a fluke, so they did it again.
And it worked again.
Yeah, it worked again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. We call shit crazy, and maybe something is, but you can't know something's crazy unless you actually continually test the theory. That's what life is supposed to be. Why do we demonize this?
Well, because any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yes.
So anytime we have something that reaches further than our comprehension of it, we think it's paranormal, right? And we give it this taboo sort of sticker of, this is magic. It's a psychological phenomenon. No, you're hallucinating. No, and we're trying to fit it into the world that we already know. And it's just until someone brave enough, smashes down those borders, whether it's Einstein or whether it's people working in parapsychology. I think you have to push boundaries, especially if you're hitting a wall, like we are with quantum physics. We have no unifying theory between, the practical classical physics and the quantum realm. And so there are people who are trying to study that, but those people are, every theory that comes out is, if it doesn't line up with relativity, it's kind of thrown out the window.
And it's creating these, and this is like kind of related, but it's also creating these factions within science too, where you have like the string theory people, and then the people are like, wait, what if that's not the base, and we got to get a new base? You know what I mean?
Scientism.
Yeah. I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
Scientism.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. We're we're kind of like trying, and that stuff's been going on forever. Anytime we came up with something groundbreaking, that's what we were up against. It's no different today.
Like, I don't want to be one of those people who the minute I hear some new crazy idea is like, oh yeah, that's gonna work. Let's check it. I don't want to be that, but I do want to be the guy that's like, tell me more about that. How can we test this? What is the proper way to put that through some sort of scientific method to determine if we can get to some level of truth that warrants more experimentation on it? And so you talk about like these, I guess, like experiments that are happening with psionics and stuff. We saw one even mainstream at least like to people last year with the whole telepathy tapes thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there were so many people who even before listening to that just shut it down.
Of course.
We're like, no fucking way. And I'm not saying these autistic kids are telepathic.
Yeah.
But like if you actually listen to it and look at the double-blind experiments they did all over the world, it's compelling, and you have to at least say, even if it's not that, there's some sort of there. So let's learn.
There might be.
There might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Even say there might be.
Yeah.
Like let's learn more about that instead of just dismissing it when in fact, like we have it as accepted science that something like a savant exists.
Yeah.
It's accepted science.
And we don't even know how savants are made.
We don't know how it's made. Some fucking kid can come out and play Beethoven and fucking do algebra out of his ass. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah,
but
we just say, oh, it's a savant syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, but then you say, hey, I think some nonverbal autistics might be able to communicate with each other. Blasphemy. Yeah. It's like, how is this the same world?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.